Welcome on, welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of December 21st to December 27th. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Josie Rourke's Mary, Queen of Scots, Peter Hedges' Ben is Back, and Adam McKay's Vice.
We'll also be discussing the specialty box office. The shortlist for Best Foreign Film and Documentary at the Academy Awards has been announced. The proper way to restore World War I footage, unwinding and relaxing with South Korean thrillers, and our Cedarly 3 picks for Best Performance by an Actor in 2018. But before we jump into the episode, we always like to start off with the last scene first. So, Dave, what is the last film you've seen?
Well, the last film I saw was actually one of our special events here at the Cedarly. I saw They Shall Not Grow Old, which is Peter Jackson's new World War I documentary, where he took historic footage and, scanned it at like 4K, did an incredible job restoring it, actually converted it to 3D as well and colorized it and really gave this footage a complete new life and went as far as even having professional lip readers read the lips of what the soldiers were saying in the footage.
Not sound film back then.
Yeah, so they could have actors dub in what those actual soldiers, so you've heard these soldiers' voices for the first time. And Peter Jackson is a huge World War I historian and actually used things from his own personal World War I collection, for the people to make sure the costume, the coloring in the costumes were right. He had actual the uniforms from the soldiers from World War I. He has artillery. Artillery. I'm going to add extra syllables. Artillery, even huge guns and stuff. So he actually used the actual for their Foley work for their
actually got to play with his toys.
Yeah, to have the actual sound, so you know what the sounds of the shells being loaded into it are the actual thing. So it was really meticulously done, and it was very impressive. And we showed it as a Fathom event, and the Fathom event included a 30-minute making of documentary that kind of showed a lot about what they did.
Yeah.
So the film, we've got one more show of it, I think, on the 27th.
27th,
here,
yeah.
And then that one's not in 3D. That one's just a 2D presentation of it. But the it'll be hopefully coming back at some point in the beginning of the year.
Release
the studio hasn't figured out exactly what they want to do with it, because Warner Brothers isn't used to releasing 3D World War I documentaries. They're more about promoting DC comic films.
Right, that's true.
They don't quite know what to do with this.
Is it all just archival footage, sort of Atomic Cafe style, or are there talking head interviews or anything?
No, it's all, the only thing you see is actual archival footage. That was one of the challenges that he had, when they presented it to him. They said you can only use this footage, and he wanted to only use the voices of actual soldiers, so they use all this... all the narration you hear in it is from interviews of World War I veterans from the 50s and the 60s. They did this interview kind of archival project, and so you're hearing their actual memories of this war. And then, like I said, they have actors that are dubbing the dialogue of
to make
what people are saying, in some of this footage and stuff. And I thought that was really fascinating.
It is really a fascinating idea. In reading about it before we showed it last night, I was wondering the Ted Turner effect when he decided to colorize films. There was such an uproar.
Yeah.
But this one is all maybe it's because he's coming from a place of love and adoration for it. Why isn't there an uproar about
he said,
this process?
This wasn't an artistic choice for, as they were documenting it. The only thing that existed was black and white.
Right.
So it's not like someone had said, I could shoot it in color or I could shoot it in black and white.
To keep it black. Okay.
So they just, and he specifically says, he felt like if you went up to any one of those photographers that were shooting, and if they had the option, would you like to shoot this in color or black and white? He's
color?
Obviously they would have picked color.
Yeah.
But so that's why he didn't feel bad colorizing it. And they did a great job. I mean, it still has that colorizing look, but he went so far as going to the actual places where these battles were shot.
To get the color scheme,
and he spent days traveling through Belgium and stuff to going to the actual locations and shooting things to make sure that the colors of the grass is going to match, because he's I live in New Zealand and our grass is a little bit different from the grass that's in Belgium.
That's true.
So he was very, very meticulous.
Which funny, when you say New Zealand and the nature of New Zealand, I immediately just picture Lord of the Rings.
I know.
As if that's where it is.
I was joking that I was hoping he was going to add a Hobbit or two in there, but he did not.
All right. No Hobbits in World War I.
And Aaron, what was the last film you've seen?
The last one I went with is been my comfort genre for like a year and a half, and I just want to relax and watch something, which is South Korean thrillers. I don't know why. Just like they really
kick back
me.
and relax watching a South
they're
Korean
really
thriller.
good.
They are.
And I got hooked on. I saw The Devil in 2010 when it came out, but I've seen it like 5 times since then. It's just an amazing movie.
It's a masterpiece.
So I've been working my way through Kim Ji-woon's filmography. I'm skipping the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie he did, The Last Stand, from a couple years ago. Save that one until like I'm really desperate to see something. But I watched his 2000 and I forget movie, The Age of Shadows.
Oh, I've not seen that
which
one.
is about resistance fighters, basically Korea versus Japan, which I know zero about that history, so I'm assuming this movie is 100% accurate. But it's just a great spy thriller of who can you trust, in a time of war and resistance, and who might be using you, and which side are people really on,
Right.
and you really don't know throughout. Like it's one of those where they don't give you the audience the intentions of the characters ahead of time. You feel like these resistance fighters are the purest of intentions, but they also have an end that they want to get to, period. So they're not above using somebody else to get to that end. So it's one of those Netflix tricks, though, where the thumbnail was in black and white, and I was like, ooh, a period black and white, because this guy's got amazing cinematography in all of his movies, but it's in color. And it's great use of color. But
my when you talk about the Netflix thumbnails, I like that for every movie they have multiple ones.
thumbnails,
So the next time you go in there, it might not be.
It might not, yeah.
And because it's tricked me sometimes, like, I don't remember they just have different artwork now. It's
I've 100% done
different.
that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I have watched that. Never mind.
Exactly. They trick you. They're smart.
At the Art House this week, I need to check in with you because you said last week, did you see Green Book?
I didn't see Green Book yet.
Okay.
So it will happen.
Put in my notes next time. All right.
It will. There's a bunch of... I was actually supposed to see Green Book this week. I was supposed to finally see Free Solo, which I still have not seen.
Oh, right.
And I haven't gotten to either of those.
Well, last week I promised I was going to grab Pan's Labyrinth because you're giving me crap because I haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, and I didn't get to that one yet either.
Okay.
So, all right. The 2 new ones, The Favorite is getting out quite a crowd.
Yep. Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. It's hitting also the college crowd, which was kind of to be expected because Yorgos Lanthimos' other films. Lanthimos' other films.
And Emma Stone. Has
really
a younger,
and Emma Stone,
she
absolutely.
has a younger audience.
And there's a couple times you can just hear laughter in the office, because our office is underneath one of the main auditoriums. So like when the big crowd's there, you're just like, oh, it must be a good scene.
Yeah.
There's been a couple people that walked out that were expecting just the normal period drama,
like I said,
the Duchess style or Keira Knightley kind of style. So heads up on that, everyone.
Yeah, it is rated R for a reason. So if you ever are worried that you might be offended by something and you see that it's rated R, understand that there's a reason why it's rated R. So there you go.
Also, the other new one was Roma. Just checking in with that one. Still awesome. Still a great film.
Great.
And it is being extended. We were going to have it for 1 week only, but it is sticking around. So please, please, please come see that on the big screen.
Yeah, you'll get to see it at least through Christmas week. So
the final scene, I'm not spoiling anything, but you know what the final scene is. Anybody that's seen it knows what the final scene is. You can hear that sequence outside the theater because it's such an immersive audio experience that one lady came out she's like, my heart was just racing like that last scene. Oh my gosh, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, that's good storytelling.
Yeah, it's a great film, and it really is. Both of those, I think, are just amazingly cinematic movies. The Favorite, it's not just your very boringly, typically shot period film he does so much with the camera and the way he shoots it. It's just a beautiful kind of cinematic experience, and Roma is definitely something that should be on the big screen.
The Favorite, that is one of the comments from some of the regulars that I've talked to, like, oh, how'd you think about it? They're like, it's so visual. Like, I've never seen a period film shot that way. And the one guy was like, it's filthy. Like, it's like, it was like, well, that time period really would be very dirty, I guess. But it was like, it makes sense.
Yeah, you don't think about how actually my fiance, whenever we watch movies, he's very sensitive to smell just in real life. So we'll watch a lot of movies and he's like, oh, those people just had to stink.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
He says that all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll start watching something and in my mind I'm like, how many minutes into the movie before he says oh, those people just have to stink. So yes, as you watch The Favorite, think about that.
Yeah. Or even, I was thinking of a certain scene in Roma, but I'll save that for off my conversation. In Art House News this week, checking in with the especially box office, a couple films that are coming up here at the theater. The main one I would say this week that was big news was If Beale Street Could Talk, the new Barry Jenkins film, which we're starting on January 4th. It did the usual 4 theaters, New York and LA, with some Q&As there, so it boosted the attendance. Hoping you can fill in my mileage gap on this one. the articles I was looking at for specialty box office this weekend was mentioning that Beale Street moved its date.
Yeah.
I think this was a risky move. I missed the whole moving of the date.
Well, they moved it up closer to the end of the year. I think originally it was supposed to be sort of more in your like Thanksgiving-y time, which is when a lot of those kind of films open up and then slowly expand through that kind of period. That's in my mind. That's what I remember, but I could be wrong.
This weekend and previous weekend are like those early December weekends are kind of touchy because people are doing Christmas parties, they're shopping, they're not heading to the movies just
Things
yet.
Things get lost in the shuffle.
Wasn't sure if that was sort of the gamble, but all the reporting was that it paid off. It has this great per screen average and is going to definitely build momentum. It's in that sweet spot too, where it has already been nominated for awards before it even came out to anyone to see. So and builds buzz perfectly in that situation.
And as it expands here to Cleveland, it'll be the first weekend of January, so people have films that are getting a lot of attention right now, like Roma and The Favorite and all these other ones. So our regular guests that come to see a lot of movies here at the theater, they will have already seen those, and now they'll be looking for new things. So it's not like 5 movies that everybody wants to see all at once, and then you have to prioritize. So at least it's spaced out a little bit. So
it's past all the holidays, so people have a bit more free time built into their schedule there. Mary, Queen of Scots is also expanding, starting this coming Friday, to be discussed in just a moment. That's one of those, just like The Favorite before we got it. It's such a solid hit on the art house circuit that it's already cracked $1 million, which seems pretty rare for such a limited release of certain movies. So that one is definitely one of the highly anticipated movies of the holiday season around here.
And also, we talk a lot on the show about the Oscars, and the short list for a couple of the categories were announced this week. And they for the documentaries, the way that the documentaries get nominated, there's a committee, and there's you have to submit, and then there's this whole process of being eligible, and then it gets whittled down to what's called the shortlist before the final 5 are actually announced.
It's like rounds of voting for the
So the shortlist was announced, and that includes some films that we've played here that have been huge hits for us over this last year, including Free Solo and RBG and Three Identical Strangers and Won't You Be My Neighbor, which of course were all huge hits here. Other great films like Dark Money that played at the film festival, and of Fathers and Sons. And the one thing I just don't know, maybe They Shall Not Grow Old just wasn't eligible, maybe? I don't know. I didn't even see if it was ever on any of the other lists. I was surprised that it wasn't on this list.
I remember looking at the larger list because it's a good template for let's see what ones I should keep an eye on, and I don't remember, but you mentioned off mic that there's the weird rules that it might violate,
and
possibly.
They also do change rules all the time.
Right. But as of right now,
who knows? And one of your favorites, Minding the Gap,
my favorite documentary.
So that's great. I had another friend that just saw that this week, and she was raving about it. So I haven't seen it yet, but you don't have the sole opinion on that. Apparently, it's very good.
And I did check it out. It's if you have a Hulu subscription, it was one of those Hulu's trying to make a name and documentary market now. And it's one of the Hulu originals, I think. Okay. But it did do obviously some theatrical release in order to qualify for the documentary category here. The shortlist is also out for the foreign language category, which that's one, like you said too, the way it whittles down. I guess pretty much any country in the world can submit something to the Academy as their official entry for that country. Not all the countries do, but
as long as the financing has to be there's a certain percentage of the financing that comes from has to be from that country, and it has to be in a non-English language. So you could have, if you are from Germany, but you made your whole. I think this is how the rule is. It doesn't have to be in German, as long as it's
right. Yeah.
It always is, but it just can't be in English, and you decide. However, each of those countries decide. They submit one film for consideration.
A lot of the major, I guess, first world countries have a Ministry of Culture or some Department of Culture that kind of usually spearheads that, or their version of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences in that country will kind of spearhead that as well.
They pick their strongest film and enter it into the race.
So that initial list is really daunting because it's 80 plus whatever different foreign films that there's some good stuff mixed in there, but then as it whittles down now, most of what is nominated, Roma's nominated first and foremost. That's the important thing, but then also a few potentially and hopefully coming soon to the theater, like Shoplifters from Japan, Capernaum from Lebanon, and Cold War from Poland, which was your second favorite.
Yes, I love Cold War.
Foreign films. So, and then Burning was also on there, which played over at the Sister Theater.
Over at the Capitol, Burning, and I hope people did get a chance to see it because it is a great film. So I'm happy to see it made the shortlist.
And I don't think it's coming soon to theaters, but there's one I saw downtown at the Cleveland International Film Festival this year that's in, because I'm as obsessed with Denmark and the Scandinavian countries as you are with England. The Guilty, which is almost entirely, it's usually entirely in like one dispatch office, but it's one of those like Locke with Tom Hardy a couple years ago, or Wheelman with Frank Grillo, that's all just like in one particular setting, but they still just wring out so much tension from just this one setting. But The Guilty is worth watching if you can find that on your own streaming somewhere. And we will be right back after we let you know about the special event coming up this week at the theater.
And this week we're going to be showing one special event, which is the Fathom Events and Warner Brothers presenting Peter Jackson's They Shall Not Grow Old. That is going to be on December 27th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That is a 2D presentation of this. We showed it previously as a 3D version. And this includes a 30-minute making-of documentary, which I would highly encourage you to come out and see because it's very interesting what they did to make this film happen.
It's one of those you have to wait through the credits, which aren't too long, but make sure you sit still, the lights don't come up.
Yep.
Wait for the bonus content.
The movie itself is about an hour and a half, and then there's a 30-minute documentary afterwards.
The first movie opening this Friday is one that we've been getting phone calls for weeks, and probably months actually, on this one. People can't wait for it. Is Mary, Queen of Scots, from director Josie Rourke. This is Mary Stuart's attempt to overthrow her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, the Queen of England at the time, and finds her condemned to years of imprisonment for her attempts there.
England does not look so different from Scotland.
Aye, they are sisters.
Queen Elizabeth, your cousin Mary has returned to take up her throne in Scotland.
The Queen!
My dear cousin Elizabeth, I hope we might meet in person, that I might embrace you. But ruling side by side, we must do so in harmony, not through a treaty drafted by men lesser than ourselves.
My dear cousin, let our nations cherish each other as we would, two kingdoms united.
How did the world come to this?
Wise men servicing the whims of women.
Mary is our foe. We must never bow to her as we bow before you.
You have the boldness to doubt my judgment. She is only your queen if I should not produce an heir.
What is it like to have a man? With heaven's blessing, we bring an heir to Scotland and to England.
It is a clear provocation. We must make war in Scotland.
So put your skills to use.
Do not play into their hands. Our hatred is precisely what they hope for. I know your heart has more within it than the men who counsel you.
You would do well to watch your words.
I will not be scolded by my inferior. You're inferior.
This is one of those movies you get at the theater that is purely driven on 100% star power. People cannot wait to see Saoirse Ronan and then also Margot Robbie, but also facing off against each other.
Yeah, the trailer's great.
Yeah.
It really is. It makes you feel like, although the trailer does make it seem like it's an even split of screen time between the two of them in the film, and apparently Margot Robbie really is the supporting character. It is Saoirse Ronan's film.
Mary, Queen of Scots. That does make sense.
But I mean, like it is Saoirse Ronan's film, and Margot Robbie's like nominated for supporting actress.
True.
In, is it the SAGs? I think
so. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a reason why she's supporting and Saoirse is the lead.
Interesting. So, yeah.
But the trailer, if you watch the trailer, it makes it seem like they have equal screen time, and it's not the case. But
well, when you have two stars of that caliber, you kind of want to promote those as well.
I'm loving Margot Robbie more and more. She's just, I think she's amazing.
This one comes from Josie Rourke, and she is this is her first feature film. She's worked a lot with the National Theater, which we show a lot of their productions here at the theater. I did not write down which productions, but there was like 3 of them that we've shown here that she had directed on the stage. And for some reason in my head, maybe I'm just biased against period films, or not against period films, but I'm biased when it comes to period films that like, oh, you go to the theater and the stage to get someone to direct the costume drama about, the Queen of England and the Queen of the Scots, and they're duking it out for power. This one, too, is another one of those in the long line of films we've had this year where it's based on a true story. It's based on a historical thing that people, if you know that history, know how this story ends.
Sure.
But, will they be successful in building suspense in order to get to that point, which this is probably a little bit more obscure than like First Man, where like, is he going to make it to the moon or not? Which
I think he made it to the moon.
He made it to the moon. So we'll see how that one plays. But this one, it's purely the star power going that people just cannot wait for that new Saoirse Ronan and Margot Robbie, because this time last year was Lady Bird and I, Tonya, two big hits for us that year. So looking forward to seeing how that connects with audiences.
And we're also going to be opening Ben is Back, which is directed by Peter Hedges. This tells the story of Ben, a drug-addicted teenage boy who shows up unexpectedly at his family's home on Christmas Eve.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Hi, Mom.
I see you. Is it you?
Is that Ben?
Did you see? He's gained some weight and he's got the sparkle back in his eyes. He's clearly doing better.
So then why are you hiding everything?
We said we weren't going to do this again, remember?
I agree. That if it weren't Christmas, you get a day. This time tomorrow, you are back in sober living.
Yeah, okay.
You do not leave my sight ever.
This is interesting because it is directed by Peter Hedges and it stars his son, Lucas Hedges, who we talked about before, how he has just done an amazing body of work already.
Yeah, we were saying we need to figure out who his agent is, because every project he has has just
been great,
stellar.
And he is nominated for a Golden Globe for his work in Boy Erased, which we were just showing here at the theater. So he's had two very high-profile films this year, and of course, it also features as his mother Julia Roberts. So it's interesting that Julia Roberts is transitioning to a different kind of period in her career now, and taking these sort of mother roles, if you will, but
true.
It's, not. It's interesting whenever like Pretty Woman Ingenue becomes,
it's the switch from
transitions into these other kind of later in her career roles.
Romantic comedies where will she or won't she do the meet cute and find love, and now she has done that, fictionally speaking, and settled down. Now it's family time.
Just like life. Whenever you're in your 20s, you're a different person than when you are when you're in your 40s. So it's great to see her back on the screen, because she's obviously she's a great actress. I mean, she's been nominated several times for the Oscar and won an Oscar for Erin Brockovich. So she's great.
This somewhat violates our credo of movies in the theater, but I did just watch Homecoming, the Amazon series that she's in, and I don't dislike her. I've just never been like, I need to see the new Julia Roberts movie. I've never had that compulsion in my film watching life, but she is stellar in Homecoming, and really subtle too, and not doing some really interesting, an interesting role that I don't picture her in normally. But
it was probably that you weren't necessarily not excited about seeing her as opposed to some of the films that she picked to be in.
That's probably true as well.
So there just weren't always the kinds of projects that you wanted, but now she's, although she has always done some interesting things.
Absolutely,
Mary Riley is one of the most interesting disasters of all time. So, I mean, you got to give her some credit for trying some strange things when she had a lot of star power.
Absolutely.
She did not have to make Mary Riley.
This movie is also fascinating because I see, we see a lot of trailers being, and the theater business as our profession, and the trailer for this one is just the setup that we've been showing, where it's just Ben arrives home and there's clearly tension, and it almost works as a tiny little short film of like, what's going on here? It piques your interest to like, why is Ben back? What happened? Why was Ben away? And it's not one of those that tells you the whole story. It just gives you what presumably is like maybe the first 20 minutes ish of the movie, and then you get to see
And obviously, it's thematically very similar to Beautiful Boy, which we had earlier this year as well, with Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell were in that. And this one is a similar story about a family dealing with a son's addiction.
And he does return home at on Christmas Eve, so technically this movie is a Christmas film coming out at Christmas.
So come on out and see
plan accordingly when you're coming out to watch something. And opening on Christmas Day, this one's a little different because this movie doesn't start on Friday. It'll start on Christmas Day, is the new Adam McKay film, Vice, featuring Christian Bale playing Dick Cheney, the most powerful vice president in the history of the country.
What do you say? I want you to be my VP. I want you. You're my vice.
Well, George, I'm the CEO of a large company. And I have been Secretary of Defense. And I have been White House Chief of Staff. The Vice Presidency is a mostly symbolic job. However, if we came to a different understanding, I can handle the more mundane jobs overseeing bureaucracy, military, energy, and foreign policy.
Yeah, right. I like that. So we're gonna do this thing, or what? I mean, is this happening?
I believe we can make this work.
Hot damn.
This movie is really intriguing to me because if you just gave me the cast list for Vice of Amy Adams and Christian Bale and Steve Carell as Don Rumsfeld, and I'm already drawing a blank on... I think there's a few other people
there
there.
are some other odd...
Sam Rockwell. Oh, my God.
Rockwell
as
George W. Bush, yes.
That alone has piqued my interest, but it's also Adam McKay in my head is like this new phase of his career.
Absolutely.
Where after he did The Big Short 2 years ago, I believe now, where he was co-writer, shared the Academy Award for Best Screenplay, and also directed that one, that he's past his Will Ferrell
his Anchorman
phase.
But I love Anchorman just as much.
Nothing wrong with
yeah.
him. Just it's a very different approach. If you would have told me a couple years ago, do you want to go see this, basically a crazy comedy about the financial collapse of 2008, I've been like, hold on a second. That's a really loaded sentence of wrong genres.
And now he's giving you a crazy comedy about, Dick Cheney, who is definitely not seen as a comedic figure in history.
No.
And certainly... he isn't played for laughs. It is a comedy, but it is not played for any kind of traditional laughs like most comedies are.
Right.
It's a very interesting tone that the movie strikes.
That's what I was wondering at, because he was so brilliant with that tone in The Big Short, where like that shouldn't be as compelling and hilarious as it is.
Well, just like how Big Short kind of played with a little bit of cinematic conventions, this one takes it up to the next level.
Oh, okay, good.
There's a part in the film where Dick Cheney's had his political career started back in like the Nixon era.
Oh yeah.
And kind of it is very much like House of Cards. If you watch the the Netflix series, he basically was that, kind of like jockeying for position and knowing how to play and get what he wanted behind the scenes and all this stuff. And but then whenever he found out that his one daughter was gay, he actually decided, well, because it would be too hard for them at the time, he chose basically his daughter over continuing to run for like some offices and
political
stuff.
office.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then so that's like happens about, 20, 30 minutes into the movie. And then it has like end of film kind of titles come up.
Oh, really?
Like, as if it's like a happy ending to the story, and then like literally like credits start to scroll on the screen. It's like, no, that's not actually that's not the happy ending. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Like how he does that in this film. So that's what I mean. Like
playing with conventions.
He's really playing with conventions because he just has a fake ending like 20, 30 minutes into the movie. But it's a very it's filled with some great performance. Obviously, Christian Bale has been getting a lot of attention. He's up for a SAG. He's up for the Golden Globe. And it's the casting is very interesting. I never would have thought Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
I mean, just the visuals of like the stills and the trailers, like they at least nailed the look of all of them. But
So it's a very good film, and it's certainly worth seeing, and it's got great performances. So I hope people come out and see it.
Well, speaking of great performances, we are using our Cedarly 3 segment, the last few episodes, to do a kind of a wrap up of the year of 2018 that was in film. And we are doing this week favorite actors as performers in 2018 films. Did Christian Bale for Vice make your list?
Well, all right. So we're starting with me then? Okay. So I actually wasn't as excited about as I was kind of thinking about this. I had a much easier time, or a harder time, if you will, thinking of female performances.
Oh, I did too. My list was much longer.
Like, I really had to like give. I mean, the fact that I didn't say Glenn Close last week. I mean, like she was amazing.
Yeah.
This was a little harder for me because there weren't performances that I thought were, I don't know, that exceptional.
I had a couple standouts in my head that they just stuck with me since I saw the movie at the first, second, third time or whatever.
I did too.
But then I had to go through my own kind of like my own kind of list of what all I had seen, but also my favorites of the year, my top list. And it wasn't like it was super hard, but I was kind of like they were all just like good. But it was a year where, like, when we mentioned Toni Collette for Hereditary last week, like that is just a standout. Like as soon as you talk, you're like, I don't think this is going to get beat. Holy cow!
Well, I tend to, I don't always cotton to the performances that a lot of people like praise, which are a lot of times, like Rami Malek's great performance in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
but I feel like whenever you're doing such a well-known person and you have all this material that a lot of your performance is based on mimicking their demeanor.
Yes.
And the same thing with Christian Bale. He does a great job of transforming himself into this and does a great job with his posture and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that is a very physical, demanding performance. But I'm usually more interested in someone that kind of creates a character.
Yes.
And even though a couple of the people on my list are playing people based in real life, they're not public figures that everybody knew everything about.
Right, exactly.
So the first one on my list is one of those, which would be John David Washington from BlackKklansman. And he was nominated for a SAG Award, a Globe, and an Independent Spirit Award. And I just thought it was a great performance between doing a lot of stuff. I mean, like, it's sort of funny, but it's also like very dramatic.
Right.
And I mean, it's just and it anchors that film in a really important way.
Yeah.
So I was impressed with him.
What's also too within that particular role, he's doing several different performances. He acts one way when he goes to see the Black Power rally. He's one way when he's talking to the police chief. He's a different way with the romantic interest that he has in the movie. He's a different way with Adam Driver, which isn't to say he's duplicitous. It's just a different version of his personality comes out in each one of those kind of interactions.
The scene where he is the police officer that has to guard the David Duke rally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just a great moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot going on there, and it's not showy.
Yeah.
You know? So I was very impressed with him.
That is a perfect encapsulation of my first pick, which is Ben Foster for Leave No Trace. There's so much going on there, but his character isn't going to be outwardly chewing the scenery or really being expressive because it's an ex-soldier suffering with some PTSD, and he's raising his daughter on his own terms out in the wilderness. And then it's their slow reintegration into society and the ramifications that come from that. And it's a very quiet performance, but it's one of those, the old adage of acting as reacting kind of things. Right. The way you see what he does because he's got the soldier mentality, he doesn't want to let on that he's troubled or having a hard time. So it's all kind of under the surface. At one point he's taking like a personality test on a computer, and what he's doing with his eyes, just like always checking the window, like seeing where he's at. Yeah. It's subtle, but if you watch his performance while other people are talking to him, he's always doing something in the movie, and it's. He's just one of my favorite actors right now. Working,
excellent. I love him.
He's done so many movies over the years that are. He's clearly guided by, I think, like the intensity or the quality of the role. Not like, oh, well, this movie, get me a leading man status. Am I going to get into a Marvel universe here? Or anything like that. It's more just the material that he's drawn to.
He already got to be a superhero. In the X-Men movies.
I haven't seen X-Men movies.
He is a very supporting, small little, I think he's playing
Delete that
Angel.
comment.
I can't remember. No, but he is by no means like the
okay.
He is like a small role in one of those. So, yeah. And then, this is a weird transition, but the next film or the next performer on my list was Ethan Hawke for First Reformed, which I thought was just an amazing performance as this, man of as a clergyman. He's not a priest. I forget because he's not Catholic. It's not Catholic. It's
it's
Episcopalian,
Presbyterian or something. But
so he is, at this little church that's kind of a more historic church than anything like that, and just dealing with his own kind of personal struggles about his own faith and his own, his own diagnosis of dealing with illness, and there's just a lot going on with that role.
His son was killed in conflict overseas, I think in Iraq or Afghanistan.
There's a lot in that movie that character is dealing with, and Ethan Hawke just did an amazing job. So I'm stunned to see that he was not nominated for a SAG Award or for the Golden Globe, because he was always kind of considered a front runner for the Oscars, and I think he still is a contender for the Oscars.
I think so too,
because there's usually, especially for the SAGs, it's usually like 3 or 4 out of the 5 are the ones that get nominated, but then there's one that wasn't.
Golden Globe is a little more like, ooh, he didn't even get there, because that seems like that's a pretty easy harbinger of what's to come. Also, with the 2 different categories of comedy versus drama for Best Actor, there's more room for him to get in there.
He's not as shiny of a star as some of the Golden Globes tend to want to either be play up to the superstars or whoever the hot new person is, and he is not those things.
And he's got we just looked it up 4 nominations over the years, 2 for acting, 2 for writing, so he's known to the Academy and they like him, and he's a well-respected actor within the industry,
so hopefully he will make the cut.
I'll just piggyback off that because that was my number 1 for the year. I just wanted to mention, I've if you go back and listen to our episode on Blaze, I've sung the praises of Ethan Hawke before, so I would just say Kelly, my partner in crime, she always hates Ethan Hawke because he's always the greasy, unshaved hipster, I think is her words for it. And he's not in this movie. He's clean-shaven, he's articulate, he's reserved, and the first time watching the movie, my thought was like it felt so tense watching so much of it because it feels like he's holding his breath the whole, like he has like this just tight, wound up feeling throughout most of the movie.
Well, and I was blanking on the name of the movie for a second. He was also in Juliet Naked.
Juliet Naked, yeah.
Which kind of
greasy,
plays
unshaven hipster.
He kind of plays that role in it. But he was great in that. It was
really
very
good,
funny role.
He plays that part well.
Really good.
Yeah.
So
from Reality Bites to Juliet Naked, he's been doing it great for years.
He's had a great year, great performances, and also, as you said, had directed a film as well.
He made a comment in an interview or podcast I was listening to where he said because he co-wrote and directed Blaze, which came out earlier this year, and he said after his working with and directing actors and then going to work with Paul Schrader, he like couldn't wait to just like he felt like he sharpened his skills in a way that he hadn't in a long time. Awesome. It felt so rejuvenated, and I think it shows in every scene in First Reformed.
No, it's a great movie. And my number one is actually technically not a lead performance. The performance that I loved the most this year from an actor was Richard E. Grant in Can You Ever Forgive Me, which he plays, the sort of gay, drunk, boozy, best friend, for lack of a better term, sort of like best frenemy in a way, like if you watch the film. But he's just wonderful, and I always like him in movies, and it's great to see him getting the attention. And right now, I would say he's kind of the front runner to maybe hopefully even win the Oscar, but certainly get nominated, I hope, because he deserves the recognition for all the great weird things he's done in cinema over the years. And I think this is a culmination of a lot of
his work.
Yeah, and just it really plays on the things that he does well. Like, how some actors just have a certain thing that they can do, and this is like just right in that wheelhouse, and he is just perfect in it.
Nice. Well, then my last one is Lakeith Stanfield from Sorry to Bother You.
Oh, yeah.
Two reasons for that. One, I hadn't been paying attention to his filmography too long, but I've seen a bunch of his movies. His filmography the last couple of years is like the short list of the great American independent films that have come out. You got Short Term 12, Selma, Dope, Crown Heights, Get Out, Quest, and he's on Atlanta, which is some of the best TV right now.
Right.
Wow. This is just starting his career too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But the main reason is for anybody who's seen Sorry to Bother You, it is a bonkers film. There's no other way really to describe it. It's comedy, it's dramatic, it's social satire, it's kind of sci-fi. It's set in like an alternative present day Oakland, and he carries it through amazing. And there's a great twist in the movie that he reacts to it the exact way the audience should react to it when you see it happen. But he sells it the whole way through, and it's such a grounded performance in a bonkers movie that that really kind of holds the whole thing together for me, and made it one of the best performances I saw this year.
I agree, and I enjoyed that film quite a bit.
On our next episode, we're going to be deviating from format just a little bit because we're going to be discussing the best films of 2018 as well as little yearbook categories to wrap up the year here at the Cedar Leaf for 2018. So if you have any favorite films that you'd like to give a shout out to, you can always find us online at Cedar Lee Theater with a RE at the end using the hashtag CedarLee, the number 3. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedar Lee Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble. Used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedar Lee Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.